Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for our third talk in the Revive series. I'm Anna, I am co-founder of Isla, and we're really excited to be in halfway through our series. We are joined today by Selina Donald, who's co-founder of The Bulb, which is a sustainability consultancy that specialises in the event sector. Selina's fantastic. She was one of the first people to kind of look at how we approach events in the time of COVID and the impacts of PPE and so on.
Thanks, Anna, and great to be here. So yeah, as Anna mentioned, I wrote a guide way back in the first lockdown, which I'm sure, like me, feels like a million years ago and a whole lifetime ago for everyone now. What stood out to me was the sheer amount of plastic we were using against for protection against the virus. And I kept thinking about how we're going to apply that to a live event setting. So I wrote a short guide on how we can maintain sustainability whilst being safe during events. During the lockdowns, it really felt like, with the planes being grounded and roads being clear, that emissions had come down, and so the pandemic almost had a huge environmental benefit. The reality was that whilst the emissions had fallen, our plastic use had just soared through online shopping and excessive packaging, disposable PPE, increase in like takeaway food and drinks. So just as we were starting to reduce our plastic intake, the pandemic meant that it was higher than ever. So 3 lockdowns later, never ever thought I'd be saying that when I first wrote the guide. We're finally looking at the start of live events again, and we can guarantee that PPE is going to play a crucial part in planning and execution. And with that in mind, we really can't lose sight of our responsibility to the planet, as well as looking at our teams and attendees. So the latest statistics on how much single-use plastic face masks we're using across the globe is incredibly shocking. You know, the equivalent of 3 million masks every minute across the world. And we need to think about the fact that these aren't recyclable at the moment. And although we're going to get into more responsible disposal. So where do they end up? As the majority of PPE is made from plastic, it takes up to 450 years, if ever, to decompose. So think about every time one of those plastic face masks is left, how long it's going to be around for. 10 days ago, one of the first large-scale live events took place in Barcelona. If you ignore the white face masks on this picture, it kind of looks like a scene from a pre-pandemic day. No social distancing, as you can see. And ticket buyers had to take a COVID test the morning of the event. Those with a negative result got a code on their mobile validating their tickets. And they also had to agree to check in with the event organisers if they did come down with COVID in the weeks after the concert. An analysis of the rate of infection will be done in the next week or so. And it'll be really interesting to see how successful this approach was. So they COVID test everyone on the morning of the event, and then everyone had to wear the face masks. And so, excitement aside of seeing a live event, what I did think was what happened to all those face masks. 5,000 attendees. We all know how many people behind the scenes it takes to put on a concert. And with all of those face masks, where did they go? And also the testing kits. One kit can contain up to 4 plastic bottles with lids, plastic bags, elastic bands, labels, bubble wrap. You know, whilst we absolutely need to keep people safe, it's also our responsibility to think about how we manage that amount of plastic and responsibly dispose of it. So what can you do as event organisers? When looking at how you plan your event, I guess one of the most controversial topics that we're seeing this week is the vaccine passports and whether this provides the security we need for running live events. Whilst they're not at the moment going to be part of all of the newly announced pilot events that are happening in Liverpool, the pilots are going to explore different approaches, similar to the event in Barcelona, looking at social distancing, crowd management, ventilation, and tests on entry protocols, so thermal scanning and the COVID tests. They're going to look at how they can create almost a touchless event, looking at the use of smartphones for entry, making the event as contactless as possible. And these are absolutely the things that we should be thinking. Look at brilliant software like OnePlan, which is an online crowd management tool, and that measures your event space and calculates how many people you can fit in any area whilst maintaining a social distance between each person. So it does the hard job for you, which I very much am in favour of. And it also models your arrival and your exit. So it allows you to plan how many people you can process in any given time without getting that big queue of people. Allows you to stagger people. And that's a really great tool to look at for sensibly and looking at how you can crowd manage your events. Transparency and clear communication around health and safety is going to be demanded for every event moving forward. As well as maintaining safety, we've got to think about the fear factor. We need to reassure our attendees and ensure that they're confident that you as an event organiser have put every measure possible in place to prevent the risk and spread of COVID-19. And that means clear and well thought out signage throughout your venue, providing visual reminders of safety measures, and just thinking about your high touch points, high viewpoints. Here, you should really consider the materials you're using for signage and how you'll dispose of them. I really recommend avoiding the unrecyclable materials listed here. These are the traditional materials used for signage and cause an immense amount of problems, as all of them need to end up in landfill. Think again about how you can keep your impacts low. Look at reusable signage or digital signage, and look at materials like Realboard, which is 100% plastic free, water resistant, so can be outdoors, and recyclable. Check out the Sustainable Signage Company, because they're one of the biggest providers of that material. Unfortunately, we know that face masks are not going to be going away anytime soon. And the most sustainable option is a reusable face mask, which can also be a branding opportunity for your clients. If you do use single use, you really must have a responsible disposal plan in place, which we'll come to shortly. Realshield is a brilliant option for events, and it's definitely going to be my preferred and recommended option. It's a plastic-free visor. It's certified to confirm that it is good for the planet, and it's the same price as plastic shields. Which begs the question, why wouldn't you, really? Realshield also provide disposal units, so you can get rid of the products once you've used them. Alternatively, the cardboard frame can be separated and recycled, whilst the clear screen can be placed in a food waste bin. Do not ever attempt to recycle any PPE through normal recycling streams. This is really important, because if your PPE ends up in a recycling stream, you'll not only contaminate the entire bin of contents, which means everything ends up in landfill, you also put workers at the risk of potential exposure. Terracycle have come up with a brilliant solution. They are a really brilliant recycling company, and they're known for tackling the hard to recycle everyday products. They've created these brilliant zero waste boxes, and you might have seen them in some shops. I know O2 have got a partnership with them and have got them in every single store across the UK. These boxes are zero waste boxes for all PPE. So masks, gloves, everything that you could need. You can put them in the boxes, and then when they're full, return them back to Terracycle for processing and cleaning. They're melted into pellets, and those pellets are used to create loads of random new products like outdoor furniture and shipping pallets and decking and watering cans. So it's a really brilliant option, and it's also really cost effective. You know, they're priced between around 120 to 350 pounds, and the 350 pounds are the really big bins. So they're ideal for event situations. If for whatever reason Terracycle have sold out of these bins, another supplier is reworked, and they're currently working with Wilkinson's and have PPE disposal boxes in every store across the UK. The growth of single-use plastic coffee cups and food packaging is really detrimental, and it was probably one of the things that really, frustrated me, I guess, with buying coffee throughout the pandemic. After a statement was signed by 130 academics and health professionals, they said that reusables were safe to use. And so it's just about looking at your reusable supplier. People like Stack Cup and Green Goblet are brilliant for reusable cups for events. You could also look at encouraging attendees to bring their own water bottle and have contactless refill stations. The pop star Billie Eilish, during her last tour, asked fans to bring their own water bottle, and she removed all plastic water bottles from sale in every single venue. And all of that is done just simply through really clear communication before the event. Companies like Vegware have a range of compostable food packaging, but I can't stress enough the importance of having a compostable waste management plan in place. Only certain facilities properly dispose of this material, and I think the next Isla event will be talking more in detail about this. And finally, continuous cleaning of your event space is going to be really important, but it's also one of the areas, again, where we use a lot of plastic bottles and we use a lot of single-use plastic bottles. So look at how you can reduce this through refills. Disinfect are a company that were born out of the pandemic. They provide sanitization units for entry points to venues and events. And they have a 3-step process that includes the temperature check, hand sanitization. The best thing about these booths are that they have a refill system. So once you've got an empty cleaning fluid bottle, they refill it for you, which brings your plastic right down. So to wrap up that whirlwind of COVID tips, I think if I was to take away 3 key suppliers from what I've just shared with you, I would recommend looking at your recyclable signage through companies like Sustainable Signage Company. Look at your waste management and get rid of your PPE responsibly through Terracycle and the zero waste boxes. And use One Plan or similar software to really get your crowd management nailed down. Look at your social distancing, and allow that software to help you out with what's going to be quite a tricky process. If you do want any further information on these suppliers, do feel free to get in touch. My details will be at the back of the deck shared with people this week.
Oh, thank you so much, Selina. That was so useful. I think there's so much information around COVID that having kind of that snapshot of what we can do to make sure that we're kind of protecting public health, but also planetary health is incredible. We've got a minute for one quick question, and we've got one that's what out of all the PPE is the worst offender? Of any of the things that we can replace first, what would it be?
Definitely look at face masks. It's the worst offender by far, and do that through getting reusables and looking at branded reusables, or looking at Terracycle and getting rid of the face masks properly.